when you observe people and you listen to people speak, you pick out two things. When they speak about themselves, they can be either one of the two extremes. They either say too much, more than you need to know or they need to say, but they say too little, which is don't give much away. And what sits in the middle is basically people who tell other people's stories. So we're here today with the idea of getting to know Dhanyal much more than we do. Yes, but hi, Dhanyal. There we go. Good day, but how are you? I think you're muted there on your side.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. How are you, man?
I'm good. Hey, you'd think that I'm used to this video calling by now.
Don't worry. we are, it's the start of the year. So we are all still here. We're still gonna be. We'll probably pick up sometime March. There, even just writing the number of the year down. We're still putting 2020 for most of us.
Yeah, I was telling my boss, he was like, "Did you have a good break?" And I told him, "Yeah, I know I had a good break when I forgot my email password. So when I came back to work, I didn't even know how to get into my emails."
Yeah, that's true. That's a good break. That's a good break.
Yeah.
No, man. Thank you very much for coming on board. Like the email sort of tried to explain, but as you know, emails can either give too much or give too little. But it's generally a platform where we are just trying to get a group of men to come and share their story. I know we're getting a bit more in the personal side than the career side, but it's more just to connect the individual, because there's a whole lot of more content on these digital platforms about individuals. So you can pretty much read up for the most part in terms of where they are, what they do, and that kind of a thing. But there's not much of the individual that is now the person behind the career. So that's where we're coming in now. We're just trying to inspire someone who's sitting there at home trying to figure out, or perhaps even they've got some dreams that they're looking to take up and explore, but for some reason they're discounting their abilities or just kicking themselves down. So now we're just trying to say there are other individuals. Yes, they think differently and they do things differently from you, but they've also been either through the experience that you're going through, but basically they started somewhere to be where they are now. So we're just trying to get to know that story.
Okay, happy.
Yeah, and then we've got some questions, of course, that we'll send through to you. We'll touch on them. And the other one that I just wanted to not add per se, but it will probably come up because it relates to that, to those questions as well. It's basically how you have built this openness to doing new things in a way, like the whole idea around innovation. Because most people have got ideas, they just don't have that extra step to put them into action, or even put in the sacrifice sometimes that may be needed to actually get them to fruition. So we'll just touch on that as well later on. I hope that's okay with you.
Yeah, happy.
Okay, cool. I think we're now just going to do some sort of a start, and then I'll get into the questions.
Go for it.
Welcome to today's episode, everybody. We are very privileged today. We're hosting Dhanyal. He's one of bright, if I can put it that way, shining stars within the finance industry, particularly within the Cape Town base as well. He's done some amazing things, but you can go on the net to read up on the amazing things. There's a host of them. There's awards that have come through. There's excellence when it comes to academics that is shown through. But what we want to speak about today is basically the man behind all those stats, all those shining awards basically that you can see when you read up on him. And the idea today is that normally when you ask people to speak about themselves, they either pick one of two extremes. They either say too much, which is beyond what you want to hear, or they say too little, which is sometimes not helpful. So today we are sitting somewhere in the middle with the idea of assisting him, or even beyond just assisting him, being a platform that allows him to tell his story. So I would like to welcome Dhanyal to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for having me, Bonga, and thank you for that very warm welcome.
Cool, man. We've got some questions that we had lined up in terms of just trying to understand who Dhanyal is, and of course we'll put some bio in the description of the episode for those who may be interested. But it's basically just trying to get to understand. And the first question is around some of the principles that have guided you, or even still guide you, in the way in which you have organized your life and the things that you have gone on to pursue. If you can just share perhaps some few of them. It doesn't have to be the full list, of course. Yeah.
Sure. So I think one of the ones that have probably helped me the most is probably one around consistency. I remember, quite vividly sitting in one of the first GDA lectures at UCT, and Ghulam Modak was our accounting lecturer at the time. He said, if you fall behind at any point in time in this, you stand a good chance of not making it. All you have to do to get through GDA is just work every day, just stick to the plan, stick to the timeline, and just be consistent. And that sort of stuck with me then, and has really stuck with me through the rest of my life now, in my career, in other things I'm doing. Just trying to be consistent. Some days, even if I'm not in the mood for work or studying or whatever it might be, it's just doing that little bit today, so that you add, it's cumulative and you keep going. And it's all about that consistency. I think the second one for me is also one of just showing up with your sort of like best self. I try to, no matter what I'm doing, like I take it seriously. I try to deliver the best sort of work, or the best sort of outcome in whatever I'm doing, whether it be at work, sport, or studying, or in my own relationships. I think that that's really important for me. So just like making an effort wherever I am. Mm-hmm. And I think the last one for me is one that, my dad used to do sort of very long distance running, so done a couple of comrades. And when I first did a race with him, I saw like all these like young or young people, old people, all running by me. And I was like, I got to also run that fast, or I'm feeling bad that they're passing me. And he was just telling me all the time, don't worry, run your own race. Don't look at the next person. Just like focus on yourself. You do what you want to do. And that for me has also been really important. Just like running my own race, not looking at what everybody else is doing, going at my own pace. And I think that's really helped. That, of course, is very difficult sometimes, because you look at peers and you see what they're doing, and you look at this person. And, there's always somebody doing something amazing. But you've got to just run your own race.
Thank you, man. I like that you're touching on the consistency one, because we're starting the year now and most people are probably got pages and pages full of things that they would like to do this year. But then by March, by June, it tends to be a different story if we look at past years in terms of how people just go through the year. It starts with a huge build of motivation rather. But then as time goes on, it just dies down. So I like that you're highlighting the part around consistency there. I think when we then move on to the next one now, it's more around how you organize yourself. You've mentioned a number of things that you do already in that first response there. How do you go about organizing or even managing, if you can put it that way, your time basically between your work and all the other adventures that you are involved in, and businesses and stuff? So how do you go about basically structuring your day, if you can put it that way?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, this answer is not really, I guess, what a lot of people want to hear, but I keep my time even very sort of strict. So I sleep like every day at 10 o'clock. Okay, I'm not really like up late in the evenings or out here and out there. And that doesn't have anything to do with COVID. Even before COVID, that's like how I operated. Okay, I always sleep around 10 o'clock. And then I'm up at like 5:30. Okay. So the thing about getting up early is that I've got these hours before work start that I can actually use for whatever I want to use it for. Okay. And so at the moment, I'm trying to train towards a half Ironman. And so now in the mornings, I've got this time where I can go to the gym, I can go cycle, I can go swim, whatever I need to do, I can get that done in the morning. And when I go and do that or any activity, I go there knowing that that's what I'm going to do. And that's all I do. I don't get to the gym and I'm about to start swimming and then I sit on my phone and then I do this and then I do that. I just go, I do that, and then I leave. If I say I'm going to do something in a time, I try to detect that time and only use it for that purpose. If I then go into work, same thing, I limit my time on my phone. I try to put my phone like a bit further away from me than, right next to me on the desk. And, in most cases, if work isn't crazy, when it hits 5 o'clock, that's it, I'm done. I close my PC, I walk away. I don't sort of sit around and still like see if I can do something, or, I can always come back tomorrow. There's another day where I can do more work. And then in my evenings, I have time to do other things that I'm working on the side, or just like trying to then enjoy my time or read or whatever it is I'm doing. But so I think like just being very focused on like what my time is for, and being very sort of disciplined in terms of like, if it's 5 o'clock, that's it, work's done, let's go. That's really helped. And then as far as possible, some people, at work when we're still in office, I would eat the same thing for lunch every day. Okay, we had like a restaurant downstairs where you could order food. I had the same thing every day, like chicken, vegetable, brown rice. That's it every day. And the reason why I did that and sort of do the same thing for breakfast, where I just have the same smoothie every day, it's just because then I don't need to think about these things. I don't need to waste time on these decisions. I'd like know what I'm doing. I've like for making a smoothie now, like it's so robotic. I've done it every day. I don't need to think about it. And so those kind of things, yes, it's boring. I think some people, they want some variety out, but I think having some consistency in your day does also help you in terms of saving time and sort of protecting your time.
No, man, no, this is insightful stuff, because now people use for the gram, even at work, people must be pulling out their phones and taking pics and everything. Particularly when it comes to the food part, I was laughing when you were mentioning that you've pretty much kept it strict around it, and I also like the fact that you come across as very strict in how you manage your time, and I think that level of focus is something that social media is eating at in so many ways, and many of us are probably given to it without even being aware. So I like that you're bringing that up as well. And perhaps to tie it in, you touched on work. You are a very innovative somebody. I'm saying innovative. There's many initiatives that you've started. Even now, the stuff that you are busy with. When I was doing my reading up on you, don't ask me which sites. There's a number of them. It's basically trying to understand what motivates you to not sit with, because some of us will get into the workplace and pretty much will be there for the next 25, 30 years, not necessarily doing the same thing per se, but having that sort of structured security of how their life is going to pan out. But you come across as someone who's open to touching on different things and pursuing certain parts of your dreams that you feel are appropriate at this particular time. So what motivates you to be that kind of an individual, if you don't mind sharing with us, please?
Sure. Look, so I think looking from the outside, it might seem like that, but I did have a lot of security in making some of these moves, and I'll touch on that. But maybe for me to first just say, now I work in a space where we fund startups. I work with a Dutch company that invests into early stage African impact startups. And the thing that we often see now is that, not just unique to South Africa, I suppose. There's a bit of this in East Africa as well. But for a lot of people of color, when you get a degree, the route you go is you go and you work for somebody prestigious and you stay there and you earn your income, and that's the route that you take. And the unfortunate reality is that a lot of people of color don't actually have that sort of security blanket or that safety net of your parents who can maybe just give you an apartment for 10 months and now you don't need to pay rent, or give you like an allowance for 10 months, you can leave and you can try your idea out, or they give you some capital to start some idea, or a family friend is the CEO of this place and he is your first customer. And so because of that, for a lot of people of color, it's so difficult to take that first step, okay, to like quit your job and pursue an idea and try to do something. And when I first left work for the first time, I was at PSG Asset Management at the time, and it was I'd been doing something on the side for a while, and so it was actually sort of at a point where it was making some money, and I found a funder who was going to give me some more money to sort of support me. Well, okay, I wasn't earning like the salary I was earning before, but enough to get by. Okay. And so the move was a little bit easier for me. And what was just amazing is that, when I left work there, I didn't know anything about innovation and startups and this whole like space of the fact that you could turn your idea into a business. And now, like coming through it, I can see that, there's so much more support for people. Specifically with some incubators or funds looking for people of color, looking for women who are in business, who are trying to build something up, who have these ideas. And the thing is that now it's just about getting people to know that, like growing the sort of network, helping people understand that there are these opportunities, that they can also do it. And I think over time, as that gets stronger and people start hearing a bit more and you start seeing more people, like, whoa, this guy went to high school with me, or this guy's from my neighborhood, or she was in my class at school, or whatever it might be, I think we're probably going to see more of that. And so that's why, as far as possible now, if somebody's interested in getting into the tech space or the startup space, like, I'm all ears and like try and support them wherever I can.
Cool. No, that's good to hear, particularly in a country where we are forever complaining about unemployment rate for the youth that is sitting around 50%. So the work that you do and the work that your company does as well is something that we need more of. Certainly, we cannot overemphasize its importance. So thank you very much for that. And then perhaps just tying it in now to someone who's sitting out there and watching this is probably coming out of varsity or in their final years of varsity, and they're wondering in terms of how do they, over and above the studying that they've done or they're doing, how do they best prepare themselves? I don't want to say future fit because it sounds very absolute, but to be better ready for say the next 5, next 10 years in terms of their skills and upskilling, where perhaps academic training may have not necessarily offered much there. So what skills perhaps can you pick up that you think someone within that space can be looking to explore?
Got you. So I think more frequently now than you saw before, the workplace before was looking a lot for specialists. Okay, so like this person is really good at this task and they come in and they do this task and that's all that they do. Whereas now I think there's this movement away from that into a sort of more generalist space. I mean, maybe this has been happening a while, but people actually want to employ people who can do this, but they can also do that, and they can also do that, and they can also do that. Okay, and maybe they can learn how to do this as well. Okay, so I think as far as possible, like if you want to be, I mean, we're trying to stay away from the word future fit, but I don't really have a replacement. But if you sort of want to really be able to be somebody who looks like they can add value, seems like this is the person you want to give the job to, I think being curious is quite important, because if you're curious, you naturally sort of read about new things, you learn new things, you're finding out like what's hot, what's the new tech, what's the new tools people are using, what's the new way of doing something. And I think as long as you're curious, you'll naturally become a generalist, and it will keep you learning all the time, right? And similar to like any other muscle, I think of learning as like, the more you learn, the better you get at learning, and the better you get at learning, like the quicker you assimilate information, and the more you can draw connections between different areas of things. And so I think people who are curious are going to be these generalists who can learn quickly, and those are going to be the people who are going to succeed, because they can come into any environment and just add value anyway.
That's good. That's good. It certainly gives me some good feelings, even let alone the people that are listening there. And perhaps I think we've touched on this one. I suppose we've combined this one with the other question around young people and cultivating skills for the decade that we're in. So with that, I think we just want to thank you for having given us your time to come and share these experiences. I'm sure when people are watching now, they will probably have their own conversations happening in their own minds, or even perhaps with the people that they're with, in terms of just eating up on some of the things that we've touched on, and perhaps even how they apply to their own lives as well. So we'd like to thank you for your time. And
thank you, for having me. And I think this is really nice what you're doing, because even if so when we were doing Digest, which was like a news publication, you often tend to think like, sure, how many people am I impacting? Okay, and like how much is enough? But the reality is, like, if you change the course of one person's life, that's like one that would have not been changed before. So I think it's great that you're doing this, and I hope it gets like as big as possible, and just grows in strength.